Welcome back, my friends, to the D-Rate to Hate podcast. I am your host, Wilk of WilksWorld.com, and this week our guest is Haran Singham. Haran is the creator of the Facebook group, The Happiness Mission, and this week we talk a little bit about ego. First, here at the D-Rate to Hate podcast, we're all about bettering the world one attitude at a time, and that begins with us as individuals. Now, we did not create the hate, but with your help, we can derate the hate. So what have you done today to make your life a better life? What have you done today to make the world a better place? Again, it's about all of us as individuals, individual accountability, how we act, how we present ourselves, how we interact with others, and how we deal with the things that happen in our life. Now, Haran Singham is no stranger to trauma and learning how to deal with the things that have happened in his life. Haran is a professional life coach with a background filled with considerable trauma. Trauma that he was able to overcome through education and coaching. Haran suffered much trauma in his younger years, mentally, sexually, and as a result of the toils of war, bouncing from place to place and seeking whatever safe refuge he could find in the war-torn country of Sri Lanka. He eventually made his way to Australia as a refugee, where he sought safety, security, and purpose. Suffering from PTSD and having lost his will to live, life was more than rough, but he is now winning. Haran now helps others find their purpose, master their mindset and emotions for a life of fulfillment and happiness. I have asked Haran to join me in this week's episode to discuss his take on ego and its role in people's mindset and how it can be a hindrance at times in their recovery from both past and present trauma. Let's jump right into that conversation now. Haran Singham, thank you for joining the D-Rate to Hate podcast. I appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you.
Well, I became familiar with you through Facebook. I saw your group called The Happiness Mission and became friends with you on Facebook. And a post that you had put out recently, Haran, kind of intrigued me. It was a post on ego and basically how ego can get the best of us sometimes, and it acts almost as a wall in our recovery and in certain things, and acts as a barrier to us becoming happy. So that's why I wanted to talk to you today, Haran. I want to talk a little bit about that. Why is our ego always getting triggered? Let's talk about ego.
Sure, yeah. So I actually went through so much trauma personally in my life, and changed my life around after, I've gone for therapies and a lot of different things that I have done. Nothing really seemed to work for me, but then at one point I actually met a coach who really helped me out. And then after that, how I felt about the trauma that I went through was, instead of pain, I feel so powerful after that. The trauma, I transformed that pain into power. So now I'm helping so many people come out of their trauma and help them deal with, what happened to them in the past and help them heal that past as well. So that's me in a nutshell. So what's the second part of that question?
Post that you put up about ego and why is our ego always getting triggered, and just the idea that our ego, you had it up there as almost like a self-defense mechanism, a wall that kind of stands in our way at times of, yeah. I mean, you talk about the, pain to power kind of thing, overcoming trauma in our life, but sometimes that ego stands in the way as almost like a self-defense mechanism and gets in the way of our healing. So talk a little bit about that, Haran.
Yeah, sure. Very good question. A lot of people get caught up in their trauma or in their past, even though they know they can get help. Some people wouldn't reach out for help. One of the main reason is because our unconscious mind, that is part of that is also our ego as well, that is also developed, as we grow. And that particular part of us is always there trying to protect us. But the ego or the unconscious mind actually believes familiarity to safety. So whatever you feel familiar, what that means is you have to do the same thing again and again to feel familiar in that zone, right? So you keep on doing the same thing again and again and again, even though you're not getting the results. So some people would go for therapies for 20 years, 30 years, and you talk to them, they haven't got anything out of it, but then they formed a safety network around their therapist and what they're doing. And then they have a ritual or routine every day that they follow, and they feel safe around that. So they tend to do the same thing again and again. So if I can take you back to, like, for example, 100 years ago, a few hundred years ago, or thousands of years ago, most of us were with our clans or tribes, right? And if we try to get out of our own tribe, what that meant for us were that we can get killed anytime by other tribes or some animals. So even though we don't have to be scared of our tribe, other tribes, or who's going to kill us and all those things nowadays, but on a subconscious level, we still want to hold on to what is familiar. What is familiar makes us feel safe, even though on a conscious level, we know that's not safe. It's not really serving us. We still hold on to that. That's the reason most people hold on to what is familiar to them.
Okay. And kind of apply that to your own story, Haran, because I know another post that you had put up was about how you grew up in a war-torn Sri Lanka, and you moved to Australia as a young, was it a boy or a young man, moved to Australia as a refugee, and you had some pretty intense trauma to overcome, isn't that correct?
That's right, yeah. Personally, I have gone through war trauma growing up, pretty much getting internally displaced all the time. And then you also see people getting killed in front of you, and then, hiding and running away from one place to another. And then I ran away from Sri Lanka and I came to Australia. And when I came to Australia, even before that, I went through sexual abuse and things like that as well, growing up. And then coming to Australia, it was altogether, it was a totally different experience, new culture, new language, and I didn't know anyone here. And then after that, I started focusing on my education. So I started studying business degree first, and then I started working in the accounting field as well. And then I kind of, I hated it, but then 1 year after I arrived in Australia, all the trauma started coming to the surface. Most of you probably heard about war veterans, what happened to the, people.
Like the PTSD.
Yeah, exactly. And going to war, and then they come back, they're not the same people. When you talk to them, they want to kill themselves, or they self-harm, or do all these kind of things.
Sure.
So I was actually doing the same thing, and I didn't really understand what was going on for me. All I wanted to do was I don't want to live. I just wanted to kill myself. Coming from Sri Lanka, you don't normally go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist and talk about these kind of things. So I thought that's normal. But then some of my friends actually told me, why don't you talk to your doctor about it and see if they can help you? And then my doctor referred me to a psychiatrist and a psychologist. And then I was on medication and, seeing psychologists and all that. It never really helped me. And I was walking around like a zombie pretty much. And I still wanted to kill myself. I was still feeling miserable. But later on, one of my colleagues actually told me to go to this particular place for meditation with her. So she invited me, and then I just went there, and then I actually saw a life coach putting an advertisement about her work. And then I thought, wow, okay, let's give it a go. And I gave her a call, and then after a few months, everything changed in my life. And I'm so glad that I took a step forward and made those changes. So that's when I actually realized that accounting is not for me, and I want to help people with the problem. And then I actually studied counseling as well. And then I also studied life coaching, and, invested so much of my time and money and energy and everything, learning the best tools from best coaches like, Tony Robbins. And then I also studied with Dr. Tad James and Adriana. And then I studied with people like, Dr. Joe Dispenza and so many other people as well. So I wanted to make sure that I learned the best tools so I can help people with anything that they're going through. So yeah, that's
Nice.
That's what I've done.
And I love stories and try to bring people on the D-Rate to Hate podcast that, they've overcome adversity, adversity to awesomeness, being able, well, like you said, turning pain into power and being able to get a hold of one's life. So let's take that back and go back to how our egos get triggered and how our egos can stand in the way of that. And then ultimately, how do we control our ego? How do we make that work for us? What are those steps that we can go through to overcome the trauma like you've had to overcome, Haran?
That's right. Yeah. See, ego is always going to be there. It's part of who we are. Yeah. It develops from the time that we are born. It develops. But the thing is, ego thinks it's actually protecting you. And that's why it tries to keep you at the same place. When we talk about ego, a lot of people understand ego in a different way, as a lot of people would say ego is a bad thing. But ego misunderstands, and then it thinks it's actually protecting you by keeping you where you are. Or, even if there's a situation, ego wants to make sure that your needs, your human needs are fulfilled. So, for example, one of my mentor, Tony Robbins, he would talk about 6 different human needs. And our ego also wants to make sure that those needs are actually fulfilled for you as well. So one of the first human needs is making sure there's certainty in our life. What that means is you have money, you have house, and you have protection where you can live a safe and happy life without worrying too much about where the money is going to come from, where you're going to sleep tonight, where you're going to get the food from. All these basic needs are fulfilled. So if you don't get that fulfilled, then your ego will find a way to make sure that your human needs are fulfilled. So that's one way of your ego working as well. But when you start talking about ego, there's so many different ways to look at it as well. People in spirituality would say, "Oh, ego is bad, and it's there to destroy you," and things like that. But rather than fighting with the ego, you educate yourself about these kind of things, saying that, okay, if I'm always, even though I'm struggling, I'm not reaching out for help, or, sometimes you start talking to people, they become so protective of themselves. And what you can do is you can explain and educate. And still, a lot of people wouldn't really allow you to step into their space to help them. But all we can do is to educate them and say that this is what we're trying to do. And even for yourself as well, if what you're doing is not serving you, and if you're still struggling so much with what's happening in your life, then you need to really reach out to people who can really help you. That's how we can grow. That's how we can change.
Yeah, so sometimes it's really, I mean, I know a lot of people, especially here in the US, but the traditional thought of ego is pride. Somebody's too proud, I think too proud to beg was a song or something. But too prideful or too proud to ask for help. Their ego gets the best of them, and they'll do something in spite of their own best interest. So yeah, I can definitely see how one's ego can get in the way of doing what's right for us, and I think we've all probably known somebody who, we know they need help, they know they need help, but they're just
Yeah,
too proud to ask for that help. Isn't that right?
yeah. One of the thing is to really practice gratitude in our life as well. That really helped me a lot. And also living a purpose rather than it's about you just waking up in the morning and then going to work or, doing whatever you're doing and then coming back and continuing with the same routine every day. Have a purpose in your life. So after I dealt with my own trauma and everything, I realized my purpose is to help those people who have been affected by war. So helping war widows, the orphan kids, and people who lost their limbs as well. So helping them in whatever ways that I can. So helping them to start a business or helping them to have better education and things like that. And even small things, it doesn't have to be big. Today your purpose is to probably feed one person, something. So you have something to look forward to. But when you make your life is about someone else, then your ego also will kind of give in a way, because you're making it about the other person. It's not about you any longer. So for example, a lot of people that I know, including me, if I'm starving and if I'm really struggling with something, sometimes I wouldn't reach out for help. But then if I see someone else starving on the street, I will do whatever I can do to help that person. You know what I mean? So
Oh
that's
yeah.
where the purpose comes in. And sometimes some people might say, oh, I can't even look after myself. How I'm going to look after someone else? Well, when you have $10, if you can't give one, one cent or penny or whatever you call it, from depending on which part of the world, and if you can't give 1 cent to someone else, how are you going to actually help someone when you have a few $1,000s? You're going to give away the money. So do whatever you can to make your life more about other people as well.
Yeah,
You don't
giving of
have to.
yourself. I mean, even if it's not a lot, giving of yourself at all helps
Exactly.
break down that wall of narcissism. I mean, when I think of only thinking about yourself, I think about, yeah, being a narcissist. It's all about me instead of actually thinking about helping other people, getting out there. If and like you said, I may not have a lot, but I've always got a little to give, and it may not even be monetarily. It may be giving a little bit of my time, giving a little bit of my wisdom, my advice, whatever the
That's
case may be, and just be thankful for what you've got. I talk about that in every single episode. Be thankful for what you've got, and be kind to one another. Do what you can to help other people, and it can really make or break it. It can make the difference in how you
yeah.
feel about yourself, and start to break down that narcissistic behavior, break down the idea that it's all just about me. So I get what you're saying. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you, like exactly what you said, make it about the other person rather than making it about you. And then when you let go of that, then you have more to be grateful for. And you also feel like, oh, I have something to look forward to every day. So when you start living like that, you'll see that ego will actually, go down in a way that doesn't really allow you to in the past, it may not allow you to do certain things, or your ego may also bring out fear in different ways, where you feel scared to do certain things in your life. But when you make it about the other person, when you make it about gratitude, and when you make it about helping others, then I feel like it's so powerful. It puts you in a place where you feel like you can do anything, because your life is no longer about you. It's about other people. So I feel like that's what really gave me the purpose in my life. And when I realized that, I made it about that. So if my ego comes up, I'm not really paying much attention to it. If I'm paying attention to it, and then if I'm, even asking myself, ego wants to make sure that you look good. Ego wants to make sure that people respect you. Ego wants to make sure that you are safe today. Ego wants to make sure that people say good things about you sometimes. So all those things, even if that pops up, if you're asking how to stop your ego, it's only your ego is actually asking you that question as well. So there's no point in really trying to control your ego and all that, but then asking yourself, what is really going to live my highest good? It can be different thing for everyone. And ask yourself, how do I want to live my life? How do I want to make myself as an example for my next generation, for my children, or in my community, or whoever? And when you start asking yourself those questions, you will really see that ego, you're not even paying attention to your ego anymore, because it's not about you any longer. So
it's
that's
about
why
the bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's a fascinating way to think about things. I've heard the phrase, somebody hurting somebody's ego, or damaging somebody's ego, but I've never really thought about ego as being hindrance to my own well-being, or getting in the way of somebody's ego, getting in the way of helping other people. And yeah, I guess it can certainly be a thing. So let's talk about just real quick. Give me some examples of a triggered ego, and then give me some examples of how one can overcome that.
Yeah. So something just came to my mind. Usually we all have identity and personality. And from the time that we grow up, we have these beliefs about ourselves. So based on all that, we create these identities and personalities. So some people might say, I'm the most generous person. Yeah. And then one or people around them may look at that person and think that, oh, he's not the most generous person. But then when you go and talk to that person may feel offended. Yeah. That is their ego getting triggered in a way. Because if you are really about serving people, if you're really all about helping people, it doesn't matter who comes to you and telling you about whatever, right? It doesn't matter. Because you are making it about other people. If you are a real servant, you are talking about, or you are thinking about how you're going to serve other people or help other people. But when someone come and tell you that, or you're not really a giver, you're not really helping anyone, but then you are getting triggered by that, then that shows that you want to protect yourself. And also, one of the human need is being significant. Significant means, you want other people to respect you. You want other people to acknowledge you. You want to be in front of other people. There's different ways we all fulfill that human need. So if somebody wants to fulfill that particular need by helping people, then they may help people, but at the same time, their actual need that they're fulfilling is actually being significant. So the ego will try to protect them from getting hurt, and then they will start attacking you or do anything. So that's one of the way people can become so egoistic in a way. They want to protect their personality, their identity, because in their head they might see themselves as a giver, or in their head they might have created all these stories about themselves. All of a sudden, somebody else coming and telling them, "Oh, you're not that person."
Right.
So it's getting triggered. Yeah.
Yeah. So their ego, and I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. So their ego tries to protect them and their own self-described or self-perceived significance. Somebody else says something contrary to what they believe about themselves. So that
Yes.
becomes then more important than what they've actually done for other people, because now their personal ego in their mind starts to stand in the way of the actual facts of what they've done for other people. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So now they get angry, and
Yeah.
they put their defenses up. Their ego puts their defenses up, and they may act in a way that's contrary to what they've actually done good. And it starts to become a bad cycle.
That's right. Yeah. So the ego, if you really look at it, the ego is actually trying to protect them. It's trying to protect them in whatever way is possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and one of the other things that you said in that particular post was, and this is one thing that I like a lot. I've done in my personal life. I've recommended that other people do in situations where I've coached them. Is,
Yeah.
What did I do? And I talk about personal accountability a lot. What did I do in this situation that I could have done differently, and then practice that, and mentally prepare yourself to deal with that situation better the next time that comes up, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's one of the best things that we can do as well. Just preparing mentally, rehearsing, visualizing, and preparing ourselves. So if you are making if you're doing something and then you can see that you are getting triggered all the time, and if you really want to change that, then mentally rehearse how else you can react to that. And I remember a long time back. That's the time I was just getting into this life coaching. I remember being part of this group. There's one particular lady always goes around and then always says something really nasty to people. It was very rude. And then she will also come to me and then she will say certain things. And I don't want to yell at her. I don't want to say anything back. Then I started asking myself, how can I react in a way that I'm not really trying to, kind of work with my ego, but at the same time, I'm also not really buying into what she's saying. So how can I deal with that? Then one day she was talking to me about something, and then all of a sudden I said, because I was reflecting on it, and then I said, "Oh, thank you for sharing your opinion." I made sure that she understood it's her opinion. So I said, "Thank you for sharing your opinion, and I'll think about that." And then I just left it at that, rather than, arguing with her or saying anything bad or anything. I just left it at that. So in that way, I'm not feeding my ego. I'm not really, and also I can see that for that particular lady, being significant was very important as well, as a coach looking.
So at that point, you're not doing anything to affect your ego in any way, and not doing anything to trigger her ego. You're just basically acknowledging what she has said, and not engaging in a toxic situation that can damage or trigger anybody's ego on either side, yours or hers.
Yeah. As I mentioned, that you can't get rid of your ego because it's like your own ego asking you how to get rid of ego. You can't. But all you can do is you work with that and see
Mm-hmm.
how you want to live your purpose.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
I know that my purpose is if I just, yell at her or say something bad to her, then I'm not really, whatever I choose to do there like that is not going to serve me live my purpose. So
Right.
I don't want to say anything bad to her or anything. And also, I think it's my ego trying to protect me in that way as well, I guess.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I think it's very important that we all find our purpose. I love the idea that you have overcome the adversity of your past, been able to work through the trauma that you saw as a young boy and a young man, and have been able to turn that into something positive. With the happiness mission, it's so important. I think we have a moral obligation as people, moral obligation to the people that we're around to be happy, try to spread happiness. And I can definitely see how certain people's ego gets in the way of that. And being
Yeah.
able to compartmentalize those types of things when somebody does say something to us or does something to us that triggers our ego to be better than the situation. I think that's really what it comes down to,
Yeah.
and is being better than the situation, being better
That,
than the situation, and getting to a point where we are in complete control, despite what our ego wants to do. But
yeah.
we are in complete control of our actions because we can't control everything that happens to us, but we can control how we react to it.
That's right. Absolutely. 100%. And, it comes down to choices as well
Mm-hmm.
and how you want to make those choices. And when you're clear about your purpose and what are you doing with your life as well, then you're not going to get distracted by these kind of things. And, otherwise, if you are not even sure where you're going, which way you're going, then it's so easy for us to get caught up with so many different things. And then we kind of go this way and this way and this way and this way. And then we're not going to end up going where we really want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I mean by that is that, sometimes or often people don't have a purpose or they don't know, what they want to do with their life. So when you live like that, then it's so easy for us to get caught up in our ego.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
ego always wants to protect us.
Yep.
So because of that, you're going to kind of go from here to here to here to here, thinking that you're safe, but you're only wasting your time.
Yeah. So to take this thing back full circle, I like the conversation. I like the idea that we need to, in order to be happy people, we have to find our purpose. And in order to find our purpose, that may mean putting our ego in check because it can stand in the way. It can stand in the way of whether it be constructive criticism from another person, whether it be ourselves being able to self-reflect and figure out what makes the most sense for us and the people that are around us. So I like the conversation. I like the idea that we have to be able to recognize when our ego has been triggered and then be able to react accordingly in a positive way that sends us down the right path when it comes to our purpose.
Yeah, definitely. You summarized it well. Yeah.
Very good. Well, I tell you what, my friend, I think we'll leave it there. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with me. D-Rate the 8 podcast is all about bettering the world one attitude at a time. And it sounds like you're speaking my language. You're doing the same thing. And we're half a world away from each other, but you're doing good work. And I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity as well to, be able to share my message with the world and giving me this opportunity to do that. Yeah, thank you.
Friends, it does not matter where you are in the world. We are all human beings, and a lot of times we as human beings stand in our own way of happiness. Haran and I discussed so many great things in this conversation, and one of those things being ego and how it can get in the way. If we allow our ego to get triggered, it can stand in the way of our happiness. Each of us as an individual have the responsibility and the power. Turn pain into power and take control of your mindset. Take control of your mindset. Do not let your ego get in the way of that positive mindset. There it is, my friends. Mindset is everything. Take your pain, take your past trauma. Do not let it control you. You control it. Do not let your ego get in the way. I want to thank you, friends. I want to thank my friend Haran Singham for joining me on this episode. And if you found something great in this episode, like I did, share it with your friends. Share it wherever you get an opportunity to do so. There's so much value that we present here on the Derate the Hate podcast. And it's all for you. It's all to help you make the world a better place. So with that, I would just tell you to be kind to one another. Be grateful for everything that you've got. And remember, it's up to you to make each and every day the day that you want it to be. Friends, I am Wilk from wilksworld.com. If you have anything to share with me, you can always send me an email. Be sure to subscribe on our sites. Follow us on all social media platforms. And remember, wherever you get your audio, feedback and ratings are greatly appreciated. They help the cause so much. That I'm going to back on out of here, and we will catch you next week.